regular meeting, because we're going to go to the regular meeting.
When I join, it's still going back.
So welcome to the October 19th regular board meeting for Sunrise School Division. My name is Paul Magnon. With me here tonight, we have Trustee Duma, Trustee Rowland, Trustee Reed, Trustee Nicol, Trustee Harris, and myself. And on the line, we have Trustee Inslee and Trustee Pachakowski. Trustee Barry is not able to make it tonight. In the room, we have Superintendent Timko. We have Secretary Treasurer Carlton. We have Assistant Superintendent Julian. We have board support Stacy Bonato. We have with us in the meeting Susan Odell from our finance department, and we have Wayne Rusk from Myers Norris Penny that is going to be making a presentation for us. So I'm going to call our meeting to order at roughly 7:02. We are going to have O Canada sung by Nicole Dugold. Please stand if you're able to do so. Thank you to Ecole Dugold School. 1.3 on the agenda is a treaty acknowledgement, and Trustee Harris will go ahead and read that out for us, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thank you, Trustee Harris. 2.1 is the adoption of the agenda. So be it resolved, the board approve the agenda. Moved by Trustee Nicol, seconded by Trustee Rowland. Any comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 8-0. Thank you. Chair's comments. Reminder that to send all questions to scarlton@sunrisesd.ca. Put your name and address of the sender. It should be included in the email. and we'll try to get to those questions. Share a story. I'm going to open up to the floor about sharing a story. Anybody want to share a story? Trustee Harris?
It was great to attend a PAC meeting a week or so ago for Hazel Ridge School online. Their first since before COVID. Things are getting back to normal in that respect.
Yeah, great to hear. Thank you. Anyone else? Anybody online want to share a story? Okay, Kat, go ahead. Floor's yours.
I want to give out a shout out to the Grafton Colony school students who on my school visit shared some of their writing with me. And then their principal, Ms. Elizabeth Redicop, then scanned their writing so that I can have a look at their finished product and give them a little response back to each of the students at Grafton. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Good job, Grafton.
So I've been fortunate. I've gotten into 2 schools, and it's because of high school hockey that I'm coaching and I shared with you. I've been into Powerview School and I've been into Springfield Collegiate because of tournaments that we had. I can tell you that the Springfield Collegiate hockey team is doing a really good job. They've been showing us up a little bit in Powerview. So we got some work to do. But tonight at 4 o'clock, Powerview played against Sanford Collegiate, and we won 3-2. The other part of it is it's good to see kids.
As Scott alluded to, it is an unqualified audit report as opposed to being qualified for some issue, whether that be a scope limitation, a deviation from GAP, what have you. But an unqualified audit report is the standard clean bill of health as the public is looking for. So I will read the opinion. We have audited the consolidated financial statements of Sunrise School Division, which comprise the consolidated statement of financial position as at June 30th, 2021, and the consolidated statements of revenue, expenses, and accumulated surplus, change in net debt, and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the consolidated financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the division as at June 30th, 2021, and the results of its consolidated operations, change in net debt, and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. And I will draw attention to the other matter as it states that at the bottom paragraph, the financial statements for June 30th, 2020 for the year then ended were audited by another firm of chartered professional accountants, and an unmodified opinion was expressed in the report dated October 20th, 2020. And we've got some amounts that are up and some amounts that are down. Taking a look at the overdraft itself, you can see it's down $12,802,000 compared to $16,532,000. Different variations in working capital adjustments and when debentures come in has major impact on the overdraft itself. Accounts payable has timing considerations of when accounts are paid. Accrued liabilities notes the difference in accruals year over year with 2020 having outstanding retro pay accruals and 2021 not having that volume of accruals to book this year. Moving on down into the borrowings for provincial government, you can see they're up $31,807,000 compared to $29,100,000 in 2020. Non-financial assets, primarily made up of TCA, tangible capital assets, coming in at $45 million compared to $46 million the prior year. Additions of $3.1 million, offset by amortization of $3.3 million, leave you the result of $45,875,000 at the end of the year. Cumulative surplus, you can see it's down to $17,500,000 compared to $17,900,000. This is a result of the accumulated individual deficit for the consolidated statement. For this year, putting net debt of $28,859,000, we come down to closing net debt of $32,389. Last piece we'll go through is the consolidated statement of cash flow. This gives us the closest version of how the cash flowed through the operations, the division for the year, broken down into operating transactions, capital transactions, and financing transactions. We've got an increase in cash from operations of 4.2 million compared to 3,024,000 the prior period, and a usage of cash in the acquisition of tangible capital assets of 3,165,60 net of proceeds on disposals here of 21,870, compared to usage of cash of 3.6 million in the prior period. This is offset by the financing transactions, predominantly the government debentures. So this is a net number at 2.7 million. So net of new debentures and debenture payments, compared to 613,934 in 2020. And then repayments and other borrowings totaling 52,480 compared to 278,232 in the prior year. So overall, add the three tranches together, and we've got an increase in cash of 3,730,680 compared to usage of cash at 297,252. Add that to the opening overdraft of 16,532,804. We get closing overdraft at 12,802,124. That's the main body of your financial statements. This is disclosing the cash in bank, depending on when debentures come in, timing of cash going out. You could have cash going up in any particular year. You can see that was 571 last year, 3.7 this year. Provincial government is the accrual of the interest receivable. On to the liability side, we've got an overdraft coming back down, being reflective of that financing that's coming in for cash flow. Accounts payable for various projects underway, and the other side of the accrual for the accrued interest, and other borrowings that are outstanding outside debentures for this particular year. Our net tangible capital assets, same number as what we saw on the consolidated statements, coming in at 45,875,000, and our accumulated surplus coming at 14,899,315 for the capital fund, and it's comprised of reserve accounts of 364,352 and equity and tangible capital assets of 14,534,963. And on to the capital fund schedule of revenue and expenses or income statement. You can see the total revenue coming in at 3,706,000 compared to 3.3 million in 2020. Most of that is surrounding debt servicing funding. And on the expense side, you can see the amortization and interest on said borrowings being the lion's share of the expenditures. We have a current year deficit of 885,401 compared to last year's deficit of 1,000,001. Net transfers from operating fund of 1.6 million compared to 1.3 million, come in at the overall surplus of 797,425 compared to 331,753 in 2020. Add that to our opening accumulated surplus of 14,101,000, get closing surplus of 14,899,315. So that's a frame statement in its entirety, and I would open the floor to any questions or discussion.
Thanks, Wayne. I just want to get a clarifying question, and I want to put it in layman's terms as best as possible. Your audit tells us that that basically we have proper accounting procedures, that we necessarily have you didn't go through every receipt, but if we purchase things, we have receipts for things. Yeah, I guess that in the easiest way, that's what an audit does. It tells the board and the public that the way that we're doing business in accounting, the way that we're doing our budget is working, or not necessarily working, but you're saying is that you don't see any flaws with it, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Paul. So an audit is risk-based, And by that I mean you look at inherent risks in an organization and control risks and come up with audit procedures to mitigate those risks. So we've been through that. Like Scott alluded to, it's our first year, so it's a lot more work to go through and come up with those risks and to dive into an organization, even though we do many school divisions as it is currently, but every school division is somewhat different. So you have to go from soup to nuts to determine what those risks are. But yes, to answer your question, it is an unqualified audit report, so to a materiality level that's set within Canadian auditing standards. That's the report that we've rendered.
So I'm going to use your words, and so when you say unqualified, what you're saying is, for our trustees and the public, the way that we're accounting is going just fine. So the way that we are running the school division with accounting procedures is that things are going okay.
That is correct, yes.
Open up the floor for questions. Anybody online want to ask a question? Trustee Reed or Trustee Inslee or Trustee Pachakowski?
I have no questions.
Go ahead, Karen.
No, sir, I have none.
Okay, thanks.
I have none either.
Well, Wayne, I think then that for what you delivered to us, thank you very much, for coming out. Scott, is there anything else that we're missing here as we move forward?
You'll see a resolution next on the agenda to accept the audit. Mr. Chair will have some paperwork, I think, to sign off, whether that happens tonight. Our Vice Chair's not here, Wayne, so I may have to follow up with you on some signed statements, but pending the acceptance of the audit, we'll have some paperwork to sign off, and then we're good to go for this year.
Well, thanks, Wayne, certainly on behalf of Sunrise School Division. We appreciate it and coming to us and giving us detailed information, and certainly, trying to put it in layman's terms for us. So thank you very, very much for that.
You're welcome, and once again, I appreciate the opportunity to present statements to you. Thank you.
So we have the audit in front of us. Trustee Duma?
I wonder if I could make the motion and just add to the motion that's there, rather than read that one out first. I'd like to make a motion.
You want to make...
Yeah, be it resolved that the board accept the audit report for the year ending June 30th, 2021.
So be it resolved. And I'm just reading it over again. Be it resolved that the board accept the auditor's report. The auditor's report for the year ending 2021?
For the year ending June 30th, 2021.
Okay, so we've got Diane on here. It says, if you look on 4.1, be it resolved that the board accept the draft audited financial statement for Sunrise School Division to June 30th, 2021 as presented. Is that okay, or do you want your words, Diane? See on 4.1? It's just right underneath the documents. Either one works. Scott?
I'm not quite certain, and Stacy had asked me that. We had two resolutions last year. I'm not sure what the second one was in relation to. I think it was more accepting the report that came from the auditor, the management report and things like that.
By us accepting, sorry, Trustee Duma, by us saying and resolve that the board accept the draft audited financial statement, that should be enough for us, is it not? So are we all good with that? Trustee Duma, 4.1, be it resolved that the board accept the draft audited financial statement for Sunrise School Division to June 30th, 2021 as presented. And we don't...
I'm just wondering why you're considering it a draft. The only thing that's left is to sign the letters, but the audit is completed. So why is it a draft? Draft should be removed, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I would suggest it's only a draft until such time as we pass this resolution, and then it's a passed audit. So, I mean, we could definitely remove the draft portion of the resolution.
So Stacy, can we remove that then? I don't see any reason why we have it. So be it resolved that the board accept the audited financial statement for Sunrise School Division June 30th, 2021 as presented. Trustee Nichol?
Yeah. I don't think we can accept we were given a draft, so we have to accept the draft. We can't accept we weren't given the actual one, so I don't see how we can accept other than the draft.
Is what we have in front of us a draft, or is it the audited financial statement?
Until it's passed, I would suggest by resolution by this board, it's subject to revision, so I would call it a draft.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I would just concur with what Scott's talking about it. In the industry, the statements are considered draft until they're finally approved and signed off. They're considered final drafts, and once they're approved, then the draft is removed, and that makes them a final statement, is how the process goes.
So this is just accountants trying to play with words on us, and just instead of using numbers or using words. Okay, I got it. So basically what we got, Trustee Duma, you okay with be it resolved that the board accept the draft audited financial statements for Sunrise School Division June 30th, 2021 as presented?
Well, just as long as the province is okay with that statement too, so.
Okay, so I need someone to move. Be it resolved that the board accept the draft audited, moved by Trustee Duma, seconded by Trustee Nichol. Any questions on it? It's 4.1 in here. Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. And it passes 8-0, thank you. We do not need then 4.2, correct, Scott? Okay. Wayne, of course, and Susan, you're welcome to stay with us through our entire meeting if you like, but again, Wayne, thanks for coming out and doing this. And again, and Susan, thanks for coming out. Of course, Susan, you can stay because we'll ask you questions at 11:30 tonight, so we'll expect you to stay, but thanks very much. We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you once again.
So we're going to move on to our minutes. We have minutes for adoption, and we need to go back to do some minutes. So we have September the 7th minutes. Be it resolved that the board adopt the September 7th inaugural board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichol, seconded by Trustee Rowland. Questions? Trustee Duma?
I did send an email previous to the meeting just regarding, which one is it? Number 5, committee appointments under E. That was removed from the agenda that day. I asked for it to be removed because there's no trustee on that committee. So I think if people recall that conversation, that was an agenda item that I had removed. So that should be removed from the minutes.
I do remember that. Go ahead, Trustee Nichol.
Yeah, but on the agenda, and one person can't get it removed from the agenda. There's no motion to remove it, so there's no motion to remove it. It's got to stay on. It was in the agenda, and we passed the agenda. If no motion was made to move it, and there wasn't, then it's got to stay on because it's a record of what actually happened.
So right now, we do have a motion that's on the floor, and the motion is on the floor, and you brought that to it. You can then do an amendment to the motion. An amendment to the motion could be to remove, can we do an amendment to the motion to remove E?
I'd like to make an amendment to the minutes to remove 5E.
Okay, so we have a motion to go ahead and do that. I need a seconder to that motion. Diane Rowland. We've got a seconder to that motion. Okay, any questions on that motion? So we're going to vote by hand about whether to remove age-friendly Springfield Oakbank trustee. Trustee Duma, how do you say? Yes? Trustee Rowland?
Yes?
Trustee Reed? Trustee Reed said yes. Trustee Nichol?
No.
Trustee Nichol said no. Thank you. Trustee Harris?
Yes.
Trustee Paczakowski?
Yes.
Trustee Inslee?
Yes.
And Trustee Mangan is a yes. So we're going to remove it. Now we're going to go back and vote on the motion. Can we vote on the motion, Stacy, electronically? Yes, we can. Okay. So hearing none, we'll vote on the motion. And the minutes passed 8-0. Thank you. Let's go to our next set of minutes. Our next set of minutes on September the 7th, the regular meeting. Be it resolved the board adopt the September 7th regular minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Inslee, Trustee Rowland, seconded by Trustee Harris. Questions to those minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. And those minutes passed 6-2. We have minutes. Be it resolved that the board adopt the October 5th board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichol, seconded by Trustee Reed. Any questions to the October 5th minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. And they passed 7-1. So we're on to 6.0, Superintendent's Report. Mrs. Timko, floor is yours.
Thank you. October 19th, I'm going to try to share my screen a little bit so you can see what's up there. Hard to believe we're October 19th, and I'll try to do two things at once and share some things. Just wanted to keep everybody apprised to sort of where we're at as of Friday, October 15th with any cases in our schools. And we have 4 cases that have been noted to us as positive cases, the last one being on October 2nd. Student vaccination clinics are beginning to be organized, and I have been at that this afternoon and this evening with some emails back and forth. So the public health team in the health authority is organizing those. We will communicate the dates and times of vaccination clinics on both the school and the divisional websites. We have also committed to doing a school messenger home to families the day before their particular clinic, so they'll get that school messenger saying that there is a vaccine clinic happening at school X tomorrow. Please bring your consent forms if you are wanting to be vaccinated tomorrow. I will share the schedule here. I feel like it will be finalized tomorrow, just kind of going back and forth between public health. So I'll forward that to trustees. Right now there are 2 clinics scheduled for the 28th and the 29th. The 28th at École Edward Schreier School and the 29th at Whitemouth School. But I'll get you guys that schedule and it'll be up on the websites as soon as I get the final word from the health authority that those are correct. The rest fall from the beginning of November through to the 25th of November. Parent-teacher conferences. So we are doing a combination of in-person and virtual as long as our public health orders will allow for that. We can't have students in attendance at the parent-teacher if we have adults coming into the building, but we did make the decision that we want to have the option for some in-person parent-teacher. We have some new families to the area, and in particular our kindergarten and grade 1 families who may not have ever darkened the doorstep of the school, and we'd like to give that opportunity to parents to come to the school. We are not asking for vaccination status of the adults visiting the school, so we want to make sure that that will be known. People have to wear masks at all times and physical distance of at least 2 meters while they're in the school. And each school will send home some information outlining all the details about how to make appointments. There will also be virtual appointment options, so if we have families who aren't comfortable coming into the school, there'll still be virtual options available as well. If parents or caregivers don't have a scheduled appointment, they will need to be prepared to sign in so that we can do some contact tracing if we need to. And if we have an appointment, then we know who's been in the building because we have people in their appointment books there. We will have a letter that goes home to families outlining all of this. You don't have to memorize it just from tonight, or if you're not watching or happen to be here, there will be a letter that goes home to all of our families. But wanted to just bring that up, that we're doing a combo of in-person and virtual. I shared last time, but Halloween is fast approaching. We are able to do We Scare Hunger or local food bank collections, and we will be embarking on our Christmas hamper programs this year. Some of that is a change to the risk of transmission in material items, so that's a pretty exciting feature for a lot of our kids. Some of our schools are busy working on virtual or I guess e-productions of their Christmas holiday concerts or band concerts. There is now a limit on the outdoor performances, and the weather today isn't being very cooperative either, so outdoor is fast disappearing as a possibility. But we'll be doing some virtual presentations and productions and concerts to showcase some of the student work. There is a recent health order, I want to say just at the end of last week, if not just Monday. I'm not certain on the date. I want to say maybe it was just Monday. Nope, it had to be Friday because I put this together Friday. It had to be Friday, sorry. The day camps can now have some overnight experiences at venues, and I wanted to say that right now we're not having overnight trips still. We'll do some more work on finding out what that looks like or what needs to happen, but right now our overnight trips are not taking place. I do, again, always want to give the shout out to everybody because we are doing a bang-up job of following our safety protocols. And that's a combination of masking and distancing and sanitizing and testing. Our staff began their testing journey or their proof of vaccination this week. So we're excited that everybody is following our safety protocols, and that's doing a great deal of positive work in keeping everyone safe. So thank you to families and students and staff for that work. Well, that's my report, unless there's questions.
Any questions for First Superintendent Timko? Any questions from trustees online? Okay, Kath, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Draft reporting schedule, anything to add? That's a good one, Kath, that you've got on there and a reminder of us. Anything you want to add to it? So that's the draft reporting schedule, a reminder. That's a good one for us to go ahead and take a look at. You can take a look at the November the 2nd. There's a school carryover progress report information that's coming to us. There's stuff from the Finance Committee. I think it's well laid out here. If you haven't taken a look at it, go ahead and do that. Can you just guys put that up on the screen just for people quickly to see? So that's a good template for us to go ahead and follow. Thanks for setting that up, Kath. That's good for us. Yeah, no, it's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to move on. 7.0 Secretary Treasurer's Report. Mr. Carlton.
Thanks, Paul. Just several quick things. I wanted to highlight some things that I haven't had a chance to in a little bit. So I had a conversation with Derek in maintenance specifically, and we have a number of projects on the go. One almost complete, Edward Schreyer School, of course, doing a phase 2 of their HVAC replacement, but a couple of pretty big ones. Springfield Collegiate East Wing roof and exterior wall, and Edward Schreyer wall replacement. Those are pretty big projects. At this stage, they are only in the planning and technical drawing stage, so there's no guarantee these are going to go forward, but we are doing technical drawings and some planning on this. The goal on these, along with, obviously I've got 5 different science labs on there as well. The goal of all of these is to complete a design phase by the fall, go to tender on these over the winter, with the goal of rewarding the contract to a contractor in the springtime, get some stuff ordered by March, April in terms of product to start the project in the summer. So, if all these come to fruition and the planning is done and they go to RFP and awarded to contractors, Derek's going to have a real busy summer next summer. We've got some pretty significant projects on the go here. So he did indicate to me, if all these go, we're looking at probably somewhere between $10 and $11 million worth of projects next summer to begin. So that's what Derek's crazy doing. Sorry, Paul, go ahead. A quick update on ICT, a couple of things that I thought were really interesting. As all the trustees know, we did recently, it's probably going back a little bit now, engage with a SEO for the division. To be honest with you, not a lot of work had been done, in terms of moving forward election, in light of the fact that we all kind of had Bill 64 hanging over our heads. Now that that's sort of gone away, Crystal is doing some work with Gord to get our voting lists updated, in anticipation of potentially having an election again about a year from now, next October. So she's working with our IT department. One of the challenges for us historically has been maintaining a good, solid voters list, and we work with the RMs and sort of trade back and forth on the people that live in our areas, but she's taking an extra step and going to start producing our own database of voters across our division. Interesting, ICT is working with a computer teacher at SCI to look at doing work experience placement for a student from SCI. You'll see a couple of things in here that I think have been on the agenda before. We're working with Merlin. For those of you who may not know what Merlin is sort of the IT provider for internet and software for most school divisions across Manitoba. They're working with most divisions on, you see MFA requirements. MFA refer to that multi-factor authentication that our insurance company is asking us to implement to protect us from things like ransomware. And then we're working on implementing a function in Teams. Historically, even within the division, students have been able to start and initiate chats and video chats with each other without having a teacher present, and that's led to some things that maybe aren't the best. So we're implementing a process whereby students can still use their Sunrise ID to implement a chat, but teachers would always be involved in either the video, audio, or chatting functions in Teams. So that's some work that Gord's been doing there. Transportation, I'm sick of coming to the board every time and tell you we're just working on getting drivers, but the reality is that is filling a lot of our days. They have worked on some bus evacuation training and drills for students in part of the division and are looking at doing the rest. That's something that kind of went by the wayside last year, at least on a physical basis, in a person-to-person basis. If you remember, there was a really cool video produced by some of our students at Edward Schreier with regard to bus evacuations, and that sort of took place of the in-person training last year. Another thing that has been a big job over the last couple of weeks, Kathy and I think just got carpal tunnel syndrome because we had to sign off on our EIS reporting for 91 bus routes across the division. We send in information to the province on the number of kilometers and number of students and for all 91 of our routes, and actually have to sign off on all that paperwork. So that's complete, should be into the province tomorrow. That's transportation. Finance, finally, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I really appreciate and respect the work that Susan and the finance team did in getting us through our audit. I really mean it when I say she does the vast majority of the work with MNP in getting an unqualified audit, so thanks again. Working on RetroPay as well, that has been processed a little bit over the last month and will continue for about the next couple of weeks. We've done some RetroPay for some of our union employees over multiple paychecks, so it reduces the tax implications on their paychecks. And then we're gearing up for first Finance Committee meeting on the 21st, which is obviously this Thursday, so we'll get going on Finance Committee again, and then it's that time of year where we're rolling into the, I've got 21-22 budget there, but it's obviously the 22-23 budget, so that's the next big item on the finance team's agenda. So that's kind of my report. And I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Scott. Questions for Scott? Scott, can you send us an email out to the trustees as to when, I guess, the payments are with our retro pay to our staff, just so that we know, and then when's the end date to it, and can you just list the different unions, just so that we have the update as to where we are, so if anybody gets asked a question, you know, they certainly have that information that's there, because I know that you're in the process of it, because you just talked about it, but that would help. Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Duma?
So are we confirming that October the 28th is our first meeting for budget?
No, I don't think so. I think that Scott will get us once they meet with the finance committee, will get us a schedule to get that out. But I haven't seen a schedule yet, Diane, and so, you know what, I was waiting for them to to get to the finance committee and come out with a schedule.
I just noticed that it said, please try to keep it open.
That was kind of my thought at the time, was to start, and I sent out an email today. I'm not sure if trustees had an opportunity to look, but I think, you know, generally speaking, we start the budget process with last year's budget. So I did send out the full package to everybody today, and the thought process was to take the first meeting and sort of do a refresher of what we did last year. That always forms the basis of the next budget going forward. So that was my thought process. We will talk about it at Finance Committee, obviously. Yeah.
It's a good point, because we do need to set up a learning session to talk specifically what we're doing about something in board business with regard to our decision matrix. So a schedule coming out will be real important for us. So that's a good point, and we'd like to get that schedule out as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think, Paul, potentially if we do pencil in the 28th, you know, I think the first budget meeting will just kind of be a refresher. It probably wouldn't take too long, so if there was some other board business that needed to be done that evening, we could probably piggyback on.
It's on page 9 of the report from Scott.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks, Scott. So let's move on to some information, Scott. I know you've got it in here. Is there any highlights that you need to do about COVID costs, 8.1?
Not really any highlights. I mean, the interesting thing is, you know, seeing how low our costs have been so far this year in comparison to last year. If you look at our cost this year, about $37,000. Last year at the October 20th board meeting, I presented a report that showed almost $300,000 worth of costs related to COVID. So they have come down substantially.
Questions for Scott? Anybody online? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Oh, sorry, Dan. Trustee Duma?
So just a question about these tests. They're just paid for by the province. We didn't have to pay for them?
Correct. The province has been supplying those. It's coming out of another pot of money. Not that it's a big deal, because it's been about, I think we've ordered twice and it's been $70, but they do ask us to pay for freight out to Beausejour.
Thanks, Scott. Scott, we'll move on. Decision-making matrix. A reminder that we do need to get something done early in the new year. So there's a learning session that we did say that we were going to go ahead. So as those dates come up with regard to budget, we do need to put a learning session in, and maybe, Scott, you have opened up the first opportunity for us. So that's something, 8.2, we said we were going to go ahead and do a learning session. So keep that in mind. As we do that, we'll also send out where we are, a refresher, a reminder about where we are with the matrix to go on, and that's just for information. We did talk about the last time as a board that we got together about parking lot ideas and what are some of the things that we haven't answered. You know what, if we have some things that are outstanding that we haven't talked about, please send them to me. I'm going to try and keep a parking lot list of things that we need to go ahead and work on, and we'll chip away at them certainly in our learning sessions. 8.3 is our divisional mileage rate. So Scott, there's a recommendation that's on here. How about if you talk about it first before we go there?
Yeah, just quickly, again, we have a resolution on the books that we review our mileage rate as a division every 6 months in April and October. So this being our second meeting in October, we should do it now. It was 44 cents. Traditionally, historically, we had used, and the province still uses, a factor of increasing the mileage rate by a penny every time the fuel goes 10 cents over $1. So if we look at the pump rate right now at about $1.40, I recommended increasing the rate about 4%. That was my logic there, that it's about 4 cents over the dollar. So, again, that's up to board discussion.
All right, so there is a suggested motion, be it resolved that the board approve a divisional mileage rate of 48 cents per kilometer, reviewed April and October, effective October the 1st, 2021. Do I have a mover to that motion? Moved by trustee Nicol, seconded by trustee Reed, sorry. Any comments to that motion? People in the room. Trustee Duma?
Well, I just think we should, if the province goes up 1 penny for every 10 cents, I think we should just do what the province does, and it keeps us at the same. That's all.
Other comments? Anybody online? Trustee Insley, Trustee Pachakowski?
No comment.
There's nothing.
Okay, hearing no debate, we'll vote on the motion. So the motion passed 6-2. Thank you. School credit card pilot information. Scott? 8.4.
So last year, late in the year, we actually passed a resolution as a board to go ahead and try out a couple of credit cards for our administrators in two of our bigger schools, SCI and Edward Schreier. So we had those all set up and ready to go in January. It was kind of a weird year to try it, so I won't spend a lot of time on this report. There's really, two things that historically we've used a divisional credit card for, and it's been a little bureaucratic getting a hold of Kathy has one, I have one, and Tracy, our purchasing manager, has one. So it gets bureaucratic if it needs to be used at a school level to give us a call. The two things we've traditionally used it for is purchases from Amazon and for travel. Well, of course, in a COVID environment, we haven't really had a whole lot of travel. And Tracy was successful last year in setting up a corporate account with Amazon. So that hasn't really been used much either lately. So you'll see at both SCI and Edward Schreier, we're looking at not very many, 1 to 4 transactions a month. The total of the about 10 months since we've placed the cards there has been $1,600 and $2,000. So, I'm not going to propose that we remove those cards. It's just been a weird year to say we should start expanding that, with the possible exception of one thing that Tracy has mentioned here at the bottom of her report. ICT does a fair bit of purchasing online, and if the board had the appetite to, our only recommendation here would be to potentially issue a card to our ICT manager to decrease some of the bureaucracy and red tape for purchasing at ICT. The rest of the schools, I think if things get back to normal with regard to PD travel and things like that, we would reassess probably in another year or so.
Any questions or comments for Scott? Trustee Duma?
I think it makes sense to have ICT have a card. I also think it makes sense for maintenance to have a card on the same condition.
Any others? Trustee Rowland?
I'm in agreement with that the IT department should have a credit card, and wondering if we should pursue a motion to allow them to have one.
Anyone else? Put a motion on the floor. Do you want me to help you?
Be it resolved that the IT department be approved to receive a credit card.
Can I help you with that motion? Be it resolved that the board approve a credit card for ICT and maintenance. Sorry, you only said ICT. I put those words in your mouth, sorry. So ICT and maintenance with the same rules and with the same rules and that we're using with our with two schools that have them.
Yeah, I think we even specified
Just a sec.
Sorry.
So are you okay with that motion?
I'd just like to hear Scott's comment to that motion.
Well, we need to get before we're going to discuss it, we need to get a motion on the floor.
I think it's a little lengthy motion, but
Okay, so be it resolved that the board approve credit cards for our ICT and maintenance departments following the same rules as the credit cards for the schools. That's what you told me.
sure.
Okay, so we need a motion, so we need a seconder to that motion, seconded by trustee Duma. Okay, so we can, Scott, want to comment to that motion?
No, that's fine. I think when we did the original motion, we specified in the motion with a $2,000 limit, but if you say with the same rules as the other two, then that's built in.
Anybody want to talk to that motion? So Stacy, we're going to have to vote by hand, I'm assuming? Okay, so I'm going to go around, I'll call the motion. Trustee Duma?
I have a question.
Go ahead, trustee Pachakowski.
Sorry, just quickly, we're making a motion for ICT and maintenance. We sort of started that off as sort of, I'll call it a pilot. Are there any schools that we're wanting to do that for now because it is working? Or are we good with just the two schools that we're doing it at? Like, since we're making a motion, I'm just wondering, like, it was run as a pilot, and now, we should have enough data and enough time now to see, how it's going, right? And I think it's going well, is what I've understood. So, are there any other schools that we wanted to do that for?
Yeah, I mean, good question, trustee. I'd recommend that, there were certainly requests when we were doing a lot of purchasing with Amazon and doing a lot of travel. I've not heard another school in the last 9 months ask me for a credit card.
Okay, then fine as it.
All right, so the motion on the floor is, be it resolved that the board approve credit card use for ICT department and the maintenance department with the same rules that we have with our current schools. Might not be the exact wording, I think, but I think we're pretty close. And it was moved by the two of you. We'll go ahead and now we'll go ahead and vote by hand. Trustee Duma, how do you say? Yes. If you don't use a microphone, I'm just going to repeat it for you, okay? Trustee Rowland? Yes. Trustee Reed?
Yes.
Trustee Nichol?
Yes.
Trustee Harris?
Yes.
Trustee Pachakowski?
Yes.
Trustee Ingley?
Yes.
And Trustee Mannion is a yes. So they passed 8-0. Thanks, Scott. And thanks for putting that together. We were just at credit card information. So where are we? We are now at 8.5, grade 9 to 12 credit attainment. That's for information. Kathy?
Thank you. So this is the currency of students in high school. All students, and I'm going to just kind of really go through it quickly. This is a carryover from last time because through my own error I didn't have the PowerPoint attached, so I wanted to attach that and give people enough time to look at it. Again, all students in Manitoba need 30 credits to graduate, so that's a pretty important number for all of us to know. We also have different timetables in our high schools, so the number of credits that any student at a school can attain differs from one school to the next. I want to walk through the PowerPoint slides, and I'm just going to take the time right here to say that the grade 9 end of year credits show up as grade 10 in the PowerPoint because we gather them in September and they're now grade 10 students. I'll work on labeling those a bit better. The grade 10 end of year credits are the grade 11 in the PowerPoint, and the grade 11 are the 12s in the PowerPoint. So those are the current students that we have in our buildings right now. Our grade 12 would have been the credits that they graduated with back in June. So again, the first slide in each of the PowerPoint things shows you the data for the number of credits possible at each grade level, and then it will give you a graph kind of organized in descending order telling you how many our students did get. We have some who have a 0 or a blank, and that might be that they just started with us and we haven't put their history in yet. That might be that they're working on an individualized program and they're not getting credits. They may have been homeschooled and so they don't have those credits coming from the homeschool. And again, just those are some of the explanations that we dig into a little deeper. You might see some students who have more credits than what they're able to attain in a school timetable, and that can do with credits attained due to cadets or music credits or language credits. They get credits outside the school system for their high school as well. We have the ability to drill down further into schools and grades and individual students as we need to. And I think the most important bullet on here is that when we look at grade 9 credit attainment data, that is through great large metacognitive analyses, the highest predictor of successful completion of high school programming and graduation is how we do at grade 9 with our students. I do want to take a look at the PowerPoint and say that if we do roll back to the beginning, sorry for the motion sickness, grade 9 credit attainment. So at Ecole Edward Schreyer in grade 9, students can get 9 credits. They have a 10-block timetable, but their math courses are full all year long credit courses, and they get 1 credit for that. So they have 10 spaces to take courses, but they get 9 credits available. Powerview, Lac du Bonnet, and Whitemouth have an 8-block semester system, 4 courses in the first semester, 4 courses in the second semester. This past year, Springfield Collegiate had 9 credits. They had 4 in each semester and what was called a C band or an E band and different letter bands that went all year long. So they had 9 up until this year. This year, students can get 10. They have 5 in each semester, and that's a change that happened at Springfield Collegiate. So this is how many credits a student in grade 9 can attain. And then we wanted to share the information about, so how many did people get? We can drill down into schools and look at that, but when I look at the 10s, 9s, 8.5s, and 8s and say that the bulk of our credits are here, it tells me that we're hitting those credits in a pretty good way. Grade 10 attainment, if I roll forward and a student at Ecole Edward Schreyer got 9 in their grade 9 year, they would get another 10 in grade 10. They could be sitting at the end of grade 10 with 19. Powerview, Lac du Bonnet, and Whitemouth would have 16 because they can get 8 per year, and Springfield Collegiate would have 9 and 9 for 18. So that's just kind of the difference between how many are possible and then showing you the data on how many students are landing with. Again, how many possible in grade 11? So these are our current grade 12s right now. So our current students in grade 12 could be sitting with this many credits in the bank, or more if they've done some, or less if they haven't maybe achieved those. And this is the breakdown of where our grade 12s sit right now with how many credits they have. If you look up here, we've got a great number of students who could graduate right now and have enough credits to graduate. They may not have all their compulsories, so they may be sitting on their English or their math, but that gives you a little look at where our breakdown is for the grade credits. Again, just the final slide telling you that this is how many are available in each of our schools. So that was from last time, and my apologies for having to double up with this and the numeracy stuff this time. Questions?
Trustee Duma?
The minimum requirement is what to graduate?
It's 30, and again, there's compulsories at each grade level, but 30 is the magic number.
Trustee Nicol?
I wasn't quite sure, you said that maximum is 30, or do you say the minimum? Okay,
So they have to have 30 at the minimum to graduate.
okay. The other question I got would be very interesting to look at the grade 9, or in this case, the grade 10, how many credits we got 4 years from now when we graduate from grade 12, and correlate the 8 to, correlate the amount so you can see what you've done. You have said that the grade 9 attainment is quite conducive to what they did in grade 12, but if we could show that, it would be interesting to show that to us. So I'm just giving you an assignment 4 years from now.
So I can say that at our school levels, that's indeed what our schools do, is they take a really intense look at how are their grade 9s doing and what are they doing to support those grade 9s who might be struggling because of that very big indicator. And that's the feet on the ground looking at those grade 9s and really concentrating on how do we make sure that we give them that success experience at grade 9 for sure.
Anyone else? So I know, Kathy, you're trying to be careful about our schools, but for me, the information, if we could get by school, because, and I know you're being very careful about that, but since they're not all 8 credits or 9 credits, the variation of what they're all getting or number of students is very difficult to compare. And so part of it is, this data also could help us is, so I'm going to choose Lac Du Bonnet. So if Lac Du Bonnet has, a weak grade or results in grade 9, it's about then what are supports that need to be come into grade 9, and I know that's when you drill down, you do those things. But as far as the bulk of the information that's here, it's very difficult for us to compare year to year. And if we're going to try to use this data to compare year to year, it's hard for us to go ahead and do that. But the data is appreciated. Probably better for us to get an understanding of where we are school to school, and I know you're very careful about that. Yep. Anyone else? Questions? Trustee Duma?
Well, just if I'm reading it correctly, so just for example, you're looking at all the ones to the right that don't have very many credits. I'm just looking at grade 11 credit attainment. So you're looking at some people that number is 0, and maybe it goes up to maybe 5, 10. So does that mean that there's extra supports coming in? Like how do you understand that information? What does it tell you?
Yeah, so I think that goes a little bit into what Paul was just saying. As we drill down into, who are the students attached to the number of credits that they have. They might have a case manager at the school. They might have an entirely individualized education plan where they aren't working towards credits in certain areas. They may be on a modified program. They may have come to us from a different place, and we're, looking at what we can grant credits for. They may have been in an at-risk situation and are just right now firing and getting some credits. But those, again, to the right there, the 1s, 2s, 3s, 3.5s, 5s, 5.5s, those are absolutely on a caseload for someone at a school to say, okay, what are we doing to support those students? Is that fair, Jackie? Okay.
Anyone else? Thanks very much, Kath. Let's move on. 8.6 is student vaccination clinics. You did give us a little bit of a report. Anything else that you want to add to it? 8.7 is our numerous pacing and sequencing report. Go ahead, Trustee Duma.
Just in regards to the vaccination clinics, like you haven't got dates set yet, or you do? Sorry.
Yeah, no, this afternoon, I want to say from 1:48 until about 6, we've just been working on finalizing dates with the health authority. I was hopeful that I would have it finalized for tonight, but I'll add it to this item and put those dates in here. The dates will also go onto our divisional website, onto school websites, and we'll do phone outs to communities when the clinics are coming up. I think the first 2 were Edward Schreier and Whitemouth on the 28th, 29th, but again, we'll publicize those and make sure that people know about them.
Am I seeing things, or did I not see you put something up there with regard to clinics and dates?
That's my draft of where I'm putting the dates with the health authority. Yeah.
Okay. So part of that is, once that becomes finalized, you'll get that out to the... Okay, I thought I was reading things ahead of time. Okay, thank you. So thanks for sharing that. We're on numeracy pacing and sequencing report, Kath.
Part of me wants to apologize for taking time because I've got 2 reports, and the other part of me wants to say, no, this is education, so I'm going to take the time. I'll waffle between that. As a board, you guys have heard from both Alan Stevenson and Jody Wilgosh about a pacing and sequencing work that we've done. And so this kind of just brings a synopsis together for you, and you can read, so I won't go through all of this. But the grade 6 and 9 pilot that we started in 2016 was just at 2 schools, Gillis and at École Edward Schreier School. We then cracked it open and said, oh my goodness, we're getting such great results. And you can see that in the PowerPoint. We're getting such great results, we want to get this open to all students in grade 6 and grade 9. So in the fall of 2018, we cracked that open across the board for all grade 6 and grade 9 classrooms. We then got hit with a pandemic in 2020, and continued on with some of our grade 6 and our grade 9 classrooms. As you might suspect, there's a bit of an implementation dip, or there's a bit of a gap in grade 9 because we had a lot of our grade 9 students not attending full-time last year. So you might see that in the PowerPoint slides. But we've also gone ahead and said we do still need to focus on education, and we've added the grade 7 and 8 classrooms in Sunrise for this year. So we will be looking at doing the pacing and sequencing and reach back and the quizzes for all of our grade 6, 7, 8, and 9 students. Again, the 4 strands that we look at are number sense, patterns and relations, shape and space, and statistics and probabilities. Statistics and probability. We have been at this for 6 years in grade 6 and grade 9 with those pilot schools. We've now developed a tool called the Sunrise Data Tool app, and our focus is so that the classroom teachers have instant access to the data from their kids, be that from the quizzes or from the year-end baseline assessments. They have instant access to who it is that they have doing what in their classrooms. When I asked Alan and Jody to put this together, I asked them to kind of do an analysis slide by slide for you. They wanted to leave the questions and say, what pattern do you notice over the four years and what else? And then have a big discussion. I said, could we make sure that we get the answers there first? You can ask some questions about what the answers are, but I said, ask the question and also give the answer. So these slide comparisons will give you some information about how it's increased over the years in the 4 strands. We've switched to the new data tracking, so right now the blue graphs are not adjustable, but they're working on that. And I think that's a good thing with data, is we don't want to be able to just say, well, no, this is the only report we want to get. We want to be able to work with it and mold it as we need to. I'm not sure that I want to go through all of these. I want to point out a couple of things. There are some reductions in number sense. There are some reductions in some places and spaces. And I do want to say that when we see those gaps or those challenges, we're looking at those. And we're trying to ask those questions. Okay, so why is that? Some of it is pandemic related, but we want to also dig a little deeper and say what might be some of the other things. To note, the grade 7 and 8, the first time the baseline assessment was administered, so in June, they did a baseline test, and they haven't done any of the pacing and sequencing yet. So that is raw data on what happens or where are we at before the slide. The thing that I really wanted to point out was the Know and Grow table and the interactive assessment chart. So these are those 2 tools that we can look at and say, if I as a teacher notice that my kids are not doing as well on outcome N5, which every math teacher knows what it is, and I don't right now because I'm not in a math classroom, darn it. You know, how come they're significantly different? The teacher could dig into those 2 questions, number 4 and 5, and say, how come? What was the error? What was the distractor? How do I have to do that differently? Because clearly these 2 questions address the same outcome, but you're getting a drastically different response, which means you've got to dig into the test and find out what is it about that question that they don't understand. The interactive assessment chart that you'll see as slide 10 in the PowerPoint also has I don't have the tech language for this, and I'm looking over at Trustee Harris, who's probably going to cringe when I say it, but the hoverability. When you hover over something and it tells you which student or which outcome and those kinds of things, when I see interactive assessment charts and I see our teachers doing that, to me that's they hover over stuff and it gives them information. So they can look at those things and say, okay, I can look at the whole class graph, but then I can hover over one of the bars, and you won't have that feature here because it's a PowerPoint, but the teachers in the classroom can hover over stuff and it gives them instant information about what they need to look at in the class. I'll do a quick look at the PowerPoint, I think. Nope, I'll do a quick look at the PowerPoint. And again, you can take a look at that or have taken a look at this and look at some of the strands. If you've gone slide by slide and have some questions, you can take a look and say, here's that one where the old way that we looked at it and the new way. We're going to have to kind of blend that and take some looks at it. The one that I'm really keen about for our teachers is these interactive charts. So here's the place and space where as a teacher, I can hover over any one of these and it gives me the information about what they chose and who that was working for. And this is a really powerful tool for them. Questions?
Trustee Rowan?
Was this like an app that was already prepared, we just purchased and are using it, or was this developed in-house somehow?
I think it's a combo of the two. So we were working with an Excel spreadsheet that was developed and would do that information, but you had to sort of rerun the report, and we said, how do we do that to make it a more robust and on-time thing? I will double check the level of our own versus what was done on the Excel for you for next time.
Anyone else? So Kathy, this data here for me is good information for me. It wants me to ask more questions, and I'm assuming that you are working with administrators or program leaders and with teams to talk about, you know, that if we're not doing well, it's about what we're doing about it, and what is the plan for us, what's the doing about it.
Again, great point. So our administrators are on board, the teachers, the classroom teachers are on board, and one of the strong features of doing this work on the sequencing and pacing is the reach back strategy. So the order in which we teach things is pretty critical because we're always going to reach back to what did we just do last. And we do frequent and focused quizzes for the kids so that we know exactly where they need to, and it's a real-time intervention for what they're doing. Absolutely have to have everybody paddling on that.
Point would be is that as schools come and present, and if they're doing anything on numeracy, it's what have they learned, and then what are they doing about it, and what are they taking some of the resources that that we're providing them to, and how they're applying those resources to what they learned. Perfect. Thanks, Kath. Anyone else? Go ahead, Trustee Dewar.
So this information is the whole division, right? Again, not through schools. So I suppose that there's, you have them broken down per school for the schools to use, right?
Yeah, so we have them broken down where the classroom, we have them broken down so the classroom teacher can look at them student by student. And I think it's that question of I want a classroom teacher to be looking at where do my students sit in relation to everybody else in the class, to themselves, where do they sit in relation to the school, and where do they sit in relation to the division. So they have instant access to all of that information. I think that at the board level, we want to be looking at what are we doing everywhere and not potentially drilling down to each student here at this table. But I've noted that you guys, you know, are keen and interested to look at schools. I'll try to find a way to do that.
So if you're looking at the comparison, it looks like 2019 is doing quite well because it's already been established for a number of years. So it's showing that this is making a difference.
Thanks, Kath. Hearing no others, we'll move on. We've got parent council update. Who's doing that for us? Is that you, Kath?
Yeah, so we had asked where were we at with the divisional PAC committees and sort of who was active. I know throughout the pandemic we've had EBYS and Centennial who have been actively meeting virtually. We heard from Trustee Harris earlier that he got a chance to attend a Hazel Ridge one, and we have an Oakbank Elementary who have confirmed that yes, they are starting to get active and are looking to have their, oh my goodness, MAPC, M-A-P-C. I got the two letters backwards there. To have their MAPC membership through me renewed.
Questions? Trustee Duma?
So did we get a letter from MAPC this year asking for division-wide membership?
We had a reach out in spring. I think Trustee Mangon had reached out to MAPC and said, hey, where are we at with things? And kind of renewed stuff with MAPC. We haven't gotten a letter from them this fall. But I'll reach out to them and get some information from them in terms of our PACs who've asked for that.
Second question, are we still giving the parent councils that $125 check? Is that still going on?
Yes, we do, yeah. Anyone else? So I have a question here. So it's showing that we have four PAC committees, 4 schools with PAC committees? Active? Okay, I know people's plates are full, and maybe this is just my opinion. I guess I'm a little surprised, and tell me if I should be surprised. And I know people's plates are full, but I would also expect that this is probably an important time for us to have PACs, talking. Comments, Kath, as to we've got 4, we probably should have 13. We have 13 big schools and 6 small schools, and if I'm out of line, let me know, but I guess I'm just a little surprised.
I'm not sure what you're asking me, and I'd like to be.
How important is it for us to have PACs at schools? And if prior to pandemic and out of pandemic, what I was expecting that each school would have one. We now have 4, I guess, that are active. If I'm out of line, let me know, because we shouldn't be doing it, but I guess I'm just a little surprised.
Yeah, so I don't argue. I think parents have an extremely important role in the education of their children. I think that the pandemic has put us in a place where we can't come physically to the school to meet, and that has thrown people for how do I meet virtually? Do we need to meet virtually? Very often our PACs were in a fundraising mode, and if they were in a fundraising mode and we were unable to fundraise anymore, that's also put a bite into our parent councils. I think that our schools have done some different things in terms of engaging parents to be part of the journey for their kids' education. Not necessarily in a parent council kind of way. Is it worth exploring? Absolutely. I think that any way we can get parents involved or more involved in their kids' education, we should.
Trustee Nicol?
Well, I think that's what I was going to say, that some of the parent council had difficulty in meeting because they couldn't meet in the school. So this is one of the difficulties, that sometimes they did it virtually, sometimes they did it very informally. But because they did it informally, there wasn't no meeting really. It's just kind of a telephone conference. So I think what Kath was saying is that the parents are still being involved, but probably in a different way.
So I'm going to try and paraphrase that. Donna, it was hard to hear you, but to paraphrase is, I think that you said that some people were meeting informally, that it was still important and parents were getting involved in different ways. I don't know what else I missed about it. I don't disagree, but again, tell me if I'm wrong, but I guess, so I don't see my own school on here, and would I want my own school to be meeting by Zoom or Teams or something like that to run a parent council? I guess Kath, I don't know how important it is, and I know is it something that is important, but we get to it? Is it something that we're saying to our schools, get to it if you can? I'm not sure what the message is.
So our schools don't organize the parent councils. The schools are a guest at the parent councils, and that's where the difficulty lies, is that if I am as an administrator in a school organizing the parent council, it does really need to come from a parent group. Awareness about what a parent council is and what it entails and what you might need to do and how important it is, that's communication that comes from the school for sure, but it isn't a principal who's running that. I think maybe the disconnect.
You're right, it's not a principal running that, and again, Kathy, you and I have been in schools, but a principal certainly is helping organize, part of a parent council to get people involved. Because a parent council, one thing is fundraising, but the other thing certainly is about providing feedback to the school administration, certainly about how school is going. Anyways, if I'm trustees around the room, if this shouldn't be a priority of ours, then let me know. And Kath, again, I got to be careful. I just don't know how much we ask our administrators to do. And you're right, it's not about organizing, but pre-pandemic, we probably had a parent advisory council in 95% of our schools. Now we don't have them. So I think that we've lost a little bit about that feedback that schools get from parents, I guess in that formal situation on parent councils, in my opinion. And if I'm the only one talking about it, that's fine. Let's move on.
No, President.
Go ahead, Trustee Pachakowski.
No, I think it is really important, Paul. I think you're onto something. I don't want to put it on administrators either because I could be wrong and somebody can correct me, but I think the Public Schools Act refers, there's a lot of responsibility on us as trustees here to engage our parents and to engage our communities. And the trustees have some responsibility with parent advisory councils or committees. And so when we have a responsibility as trustees to spur that engagement too, and that my understanding is that a lot of that responsibility is on us, and that's part of our job. We're supposed to be working with the administrators, but also with the parents, to make sure that those things are happening in schools. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding.
Thanks, Jared. Any other comments? Trustee Duma?
I guess my question would be what initiatives each principal has taken in this division to promote the parent councils in their school. Has it been in a newsletter? Has it been in an email out to parents? But what have they done locally for each principal? In terms of the ACSL legislation, which still exists, it is in there that the principal shall advise the parents in the school that they can create an ACL. So it's part of the regulation of the ACSL regulation that came out in 1996. So I think that's a part of it. We support it, we encourage it. I think we should as a board. But the other piece of it is that we have on our planning schedule to have a DPAC meeting every spring and every fall. And I think that we haven't had it last year, and I just wondered if maybe the board could take some time to look at potentially doing an outreach and say, let's do a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting with the parents across the division. We could do one and set up an agenda and just do an invitation one evening as an idea.
So, Trustee Duma, how about if our agenda setting team takes a look at it and comes back to the board, with an idea, and we'll go from there. We're good with that? Okay. Let's move on. Committee reports. So the first one is policy. Trustee Harris.
Policy had a meeting last week. Policy had a meeting last week, as noticed in the draft minutes that are attached to this board item. The Policy Committee is giving notice of motion tonight that Policy 12, Section 2, will have a motion coming forward at our next regular board meeting, which will include the addition of a single word. Our next meeting is scheduled for November.
Any questions for Trustee Harris? Okay, hearing none. Thanks, Trustee Harris. Trustee Nicol, our Finance Committee, any updates? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I was going back to the policy minutes. So that was the only item that Trustee Harris had, was that this policy would be coming to the board, correct? Only because I noticed that there was a discussion about having a policy for mandatory COVID-19 testing, that there was an initial discussion, your 4.3 item. So is that also something you want to bring forward to the board as a motion to direct the policy committee to do that? Give us notice today? I'm not sure. Sorry, did you hear me?
We only have the one notice of motion tonight. We are continuing on with that discussion of the other items, and we expect something to come back, but not at the next meeting.
Thanks for that, Trustee Harris. Hearing no further, a reminder that I'm the one that's signing authority for the month of October. We have no professional development, financial monitoring report. Whoops. Oh, sorry. It looks like there's a finance motion.
No, but you might want to ask him for...
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Trustee Nicol.
Well, definitely there is no report because we haven't had a meeting yet. We have a meeting on Thursday, so Next meeting, I'll give a report.
Okay, so there's no meeting, and it's, the meeting is you'll come back to us next meeting. Thanks, Don. Okay, sorry about that. No professional development updates. Financial monitoring report, we do not have one. Board correspondence, so there's information, there's information about there is ward boundaries. We had a letter, just a reminder, we had a letter from Gladys Williams to trustees on October the 1st with regard to ward boundaries. If that's something that we want to entertain, that's something that trustees can put motions towards. Trustee Nichol?
Well,
According to the Public School Act, we have to do something. So we have to either make a motion to review it, or make a motion that we're not going to review it till later on, because October already, and election is next October. That doesn't give us too much time to do that. So if we're going to do something, we got to do it quick, or we're going to say we're going to do it for the next election, 2028 or something like that.
Thanks, Trustee Nichol. I just want to confirm, I'll come right to you, Russ. I just want to confirm with Scott.
Yeah, so Chair Magnon asked me to do some research with MSBA and some of the governance people on this, and Section 57.1 of the Public Schools Act certainly says that a school board may, by bylaw or by petition of 10 or more resident voters, take a look at the boundaries, but may being the operative word. We don't have to, that's a board decision. So, certainly something that the board can discuss, but it doesn't say should or will, it says may.
Go ahead, Trustee Nichol.
Yeah, that's what I said, but I think also said that you should at least let the person know what we're doing. Are we going to go ahead with it, or aren't we going ahead with it? We don't need to go ahead with it, but for October, but what are we going to do with it?
So as of right now, we're bringing it to the board's attention, and I'm glad that it's a may, so it's not something that we have to go ahead and do. If we have a motion and it passes, then we would look at going ahead and doing that, or maybe we need to collect more information to see what this would cost us, those kind of things. But that all depends. Trustee Reed.
I was just going to say that I think there were only about 6 names on that petition or whatever it was, so I don't know, do we jump and do that every time 6 people put a letter together, or?
No, I think that what Secretary Carlton did say is that I think that there was a group of 10 people and they were following the Public Schools Act. We don't have to go ahead and do it. It does say may to us. And so part of it is for us to have a discussion. Now, we can formally put it on our agenda to have a discussion. We can ask for more information with regard to what this could potentially cost us. We could do all those kind of things before we go ahead and make a motion to say, yes, we're going to do it, or no, we're not. But it's really at the board table for a discussion. Trustee Harris? I'll get right to you, Jarrett. I got Trustee Harris, then you. Trustee Harris?
So I'm taking a look at the letter. It's a 2-pager, and I see like 18 names on there. So there's quite a few.
Trustee Paczkowski?
Yeah, I think I don't think right now. I think it's obviously important. I would say that we should do that in a timely fashion or regularly, and I mean not regularly every year, but the boundaries should be reviewed. I'm not opposed to that. I am opposed to doing it right now. We do have a new census data that's going to be coming out early 2022. I think, because I think at the heart of this request, I think that's what the concern is population representation, and does that equate to trustee representation? And, from looking into it when we first got the email, trustee representation is right now, as the, with the current census data that we have, is very accurately represented, across the division. And so I worry that we start embarking on the process with the same data or maybe not up-to-date data that we could have, because ultimately I think that's what the request is about. Is I think it's some residents from Springfield who think they're underrepresented or that Springfield doesn't have a large enough presence on the board. And if our population, the new census data comes in and that rings true, then let's make some adjustments. But I think we want the most up-to-date data, so I don't think right now is the time to do it. I think, it's something that I'm not opposed to, but I just think it's not something we should be jumping on anytime soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Petrikowski. Anyone else? Trustee Duma?
I think because it has, as stated in the letter, 19 years, I don't think it hurts to even have a little bit of a jump start as to what it would look like if we did this. And I would appreciate some work done by staff just to say what would it look like if we actually went ahead and did this and how much money it would cost, just to have some information. We've never done this before.
Thanks, Trustee Duma. Trustee Nicol?
You're right, about 3 years ago this came up and I did some preliminary work, so if the board would like me to share that with you, I can give you the stats I've got for next board meeting. I've got the stuff done already.
So if the board's okay, why don't we allow Trustee Nicol to give us some information at our next board meeting. If it means then from there we direct our staff to start finding out some information about what potential costs are. And then we can take a look at where we go down the road. So I think the first step then is allow Trustee Nicol at our next meeting to talk for 2.5 minutes about it. I'm just teasing you, Don. But for her to come back and give us some information from what you've got, from what you said that you did, and then eventually ask our staff to dig into what potential costs are. Are you okay with that process? Around the room?
It's frustrating. I don't mean to be the negative Nelly or whatnot, but I just think it's a lot of time and looking into things, and I just, especially with a potential very likely election next fall, this isn't the time to be doing it. I think at the start of a cycle, a 4-year cycle would be the time to do it. Because that would affect are we going to get this done before next fall? Because if we're not, then, that's good, because it could ultimately affect elections as well. And I think that's sort of a slippery slope to go down and waste resources looking into it if it's not something that we can realistically achieve.
Understood. Thanks, Trustee Petrikowski. I'm not saying that we're looking to go into doing this, but I do think that I'm not sure that it'll hurt about getting some information from one of our trustees, and then deciding as a group what's the second step, if there's going to be a second step and a third step. So I'm just going to go around the room. Do we want to hear from Don on this topic? And Don will give us, how long will it take you, Don? Next meeting.
I would probably want to give that last meeting in November.
How long will it take you? How long will it take you to present to us? Okay. So about Don last meeting in November to come back to us with information that he got as a trustee. How are trustees okay with this? Are trustees okay with this? Trustee Harris?
No more than 5 minutes.
Trustee Reed? Are you okay with Don presenting for 5 minutes in the last meeting in November about his findings?
Okay.
Trustee Rowland? Trustee Duma?
Yeah, but I'm sure not going to think that we're going to do this in 5 minutes. So I guess my question would be, you will be responding to this letter writer as to what the plan of the board would be based on this conversation?
So I'll come back to that question as soon as we go around the rest of the room. Trustee Petrikowski?
Yeah, if you want to, nothing wrong with information. I would, somebody has, I can't do, I would suggest that it could be done through email to share information if we're just sharing information, but that's fine if it comes to meetings.
Trustee Inslee.
Definitely come to the meeting. I look forward to Don presenting.
Okay, so it looks like we have Don coming at the end of November with 5 minutes certainly about this. That doesn't mean that we're only going to spend 5 minutes on it. We'll decide as a group. I think that our answer to the letter is that as of yet we haven't decided. We're going to collect more information. The first step of us collecting information is having a trustee report on it. And then we'll continue to stay in touch with Gladys Williams. To answer your question, yes, Trustee Duma.
Well, I just know that we got this information through email, but I think it's for the board to reply, not just one trustee. So I thought the chair could at least send some sort of response.
So I will respond to Gladys Williams about that the board is going to get some information the end of November, and that then the board will make further decisions as we go through. But I will respond. If I stated that I'm going to ask Dawn to give her information, no. Dawn won't respond to Gladys. The board chair will respond to Gladys Williams. Okay, thanks for that. We have nice to know information that's down there. Thank you for that. We have press releases. We have questions from the public. So I do have a question that Mr. Carlton forwarded me. And the question from the public. I'm trying to just read it here. So I do have a question from a Powerview parent, and the question certainly arises to some bullying that she's alluding to and some issues that are going on about behavior. I can tell you that Superintendent Timko has not heard of any of these prior to now. And so what our superintendents will reach out to get details about the incident and the information and communication, get information from the parent and from the school, and find out what's taken place between the parent and the school, because we always ask parents to go ahead and do that first. So again, if our superintendent hasn't heard any information, so do you know what, we will get on it. Does the division take student safety very seriously and work with the parent to address the concerns that you've shared certainly in the email? So that is the parent. Okay, the parent's name is Deborah Lauren, and she sent a concern certainly about bullying, and we will look into it and get back to you and talk directly to the parent and to the school. Thank you for that. We do need to move into in-camera, and then we will be, are we expecting any motions out of in-camera? So we don't think so, but again, we'll move into in-camera. It is, Trustee Reed?
I just wanted to apologize. I see where the 16 or 18 comes from. Somehow I read the written part of the letter, and then I looked at the petition, and I looked at the second page, but not the first page. So just letting you know.
No worries, thank you. So we're going to move into in-camera. We're going to take about a 3-4 minute break here, and then we'll come out of in-camera. So for the people that are on the line, trustees, give yourselves about 3-4 minutes. We'll take a minor break here, and then I'll call you back about being in camera. Thank you. that's coming up later on, so we just want to let you know.
Okay, I'll pass this party.
No. You can shut your computers. All right, thank you. We're back from in camera, and we're on number 17, and there is nothing to report from in camera. Number 18 is an adjournment, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. So thank you very much for everybody all being out here, and we're going to adjourn at 9:26. Have a good one. Safe ride home.
Sure.